We need to talk.
We need to have a serious talk because I fear there's going to be a certain scene in Invincible, and when it's animated, it's going to either be entirely misinterpreted by the fans or not taken seriously because of some bad actors. And I want to talk about it before we even get to that point in the show, just to get like a jump on it. And also, obviously, spoiler warnings for Invincible. So if you're like just a show watcher and you don't want to get spoiled, give me that right now. Also, this is a rant style video, so if you are expecting some like heavy editing, some video essay 40, it's not going to be that. I'm going to be real honest. I do have videos like that on my channel though, so if you like those heavily edited videos, go through my channel, see what you like, blah blah blah. But this is going to be a rant style video, just my thoughts and unfiltered thoughts. So number one, spoiler warning's over, by the way. There is going to be a scene eventually where Mark is sexually assaulted by the female Viltrumite that we saw named Anissa. Now it won't happen in season 4. It's probably going to be like a little bit further down the line, but still, I do want to get this jump on it right now. Because one of the big problems when that scene first came out in the comics is that it wasn't taken seriously. It was taken seriously to the extent of his character growth, and that's about it. It wasn't taken seriously in terms of that this character was actually assaulted. And it was kind of really glossed over. Not by the story or like anything like that. The story took it very seriously. In fact, it brings like a lot of pivotal moments in like Mark's story, and it also changes a lot for like the Invincible comic as a whole. But in terms of like what the fan perception was, it was very glossed over. And more so, it wasn't taken seriously because obviously it's that aspect of being like assaulted by a woman. It's like, oh, like, well, damn, I wish that was me. Or like, hey, I want to be in that position. And I want to say, first and foremost, if you think like that, jokes aside, right? Whatever, you can make your shitty, messed up jokes if you want to. Jokes aside, if you purely think, like actually, like in the truest part of your core, think that anyone being assaulted would want to ever be in that position, or you would like want to trade places with that person in that position, you are actually the pinnacle of fucking human waste, and we should throw you in like a trash bag proposal and ship you off to fucking Mars and never like you never give you a funeral, never like let your family ever see you again, just throw you into deep space and just be done with you. Truly. Because one, I just want to say this right now. This is probably the most personal I've ever going to been. I have been sexually assaulted by a woman before, and that idea that oh you wanted it, I'm not going to go like too far into the story, but like that aspect of people saying that like oh you didn't fight back, blah blah blah, uh kind of similar. I wasn't necessarily overpowered like Mark was, because in the comics, Anissa chased Mark down. They fought for a little, and then she overpowered him, and then assaulted him. I wasn't overpowered. I was drugged, and I was roofied by my ex girlfriend. And then she tried to, cause like apparently we were. I'm not trying to go into too much, but like we were about to break up, but she wanted to try to force herself to have a kid, very much like what Anissa did to Mark. So I'm not trying to say that like I relate with a comic character because it's fiction versus real life. But in the sense that like I understand what it means to really not want something and then not really be sure if your body wanted it, because like you still gotta rouse, but it's not that you wanted it, but like you still gotta rouse to a point like where you know you had an erection and you were able to be assaulted. So that aspect of like Mark's character, where it's like, did I secretly want it? I think a lot of male assault victims, more specifically with women, I can't speak to like if you're assaulted by another man, but like more specifically like with men, it's not the aspect because you know you don't want it, right? I know I didn't want to be assaulted. No one does, but it's still that like I was hard, right? I was erected. Um, so that aspect of that, I feel like needs to be taken very seriously. And the whole discourse, people saying like, "Oh, Mark's so lucky. It should have been me." If he's complaining, like you are, like I said, you are like the scum of the earth. Like that's not something that should be funny to you. There are a lot of funny things. There are a lot of things you can make jokes out of, right? And I'm not even going to say that like in some instances you can't make fun of like harsh subjects like this, because like a lot of people cope with these. A lot of people cope with like this type of deal or ordeal. I'm sorry, they cope with humor. So I'm not going to sit here and say that you can't do it. I did it. I coped with humor. But the idea that you would completely take away his trauma response into you saying that like, oh, I wish this was me, is actually like some of the most like 14-year-old high school shit I've ever seen. And I'm not trying to extend past Invincible, but like even if we look to like the internet, right? And when we see in real life and like when young teenage boys are assaulted by like their female teacher or something like that, and then you have the fucking bucket bellies in Facebook comments saying that, oh, I wish this was me. Bros complaining, where were the teachers like this when I was in school? This shit is not something that you should be joking about, right? Not to the extent like where you're completely dismissing what happened to someone, right? Like I said, if you really want to get into like the nitty gritty of like if you can joke about something like this, sure, that's a different conversation entirely. But the whole idea that you're going to joke about it to the point where you're dismissing what someone went through is actually like insane to me. So I really hope that like when the show comes out and they adapt the scene, and I really hope they don't skip over it. I really hope that every single like heavy point that is brought upon in the comics because of what happened to Mark, I hope that is touched upon in the show, and even more so, because it wasn't really that emphasized in the comic books. It was to the degree that like there were ramifications of Mark being assaulted, but not necessarily to the extent of um like this really happened to me, right? You had the occasional like trauma response, like when Eve touched Mark and Mark flew up into the air because like he was still like traumatized with what Anissa did to him. You had that, but there's so much more that could go on with this, and that the comic didn't really touch on it because obviously it's a comic book, right? You have at most, like in a compendium. I'm sorry, because they don't even drop those. You have most in a comic 25 to 34 pages, right? 25 to 34 pages to tell a story. So I'm not going to sit here and blame Robert Kirkman because he didn't want to get into the nitty gritty of like SA victims or things like that, because that wasn't his job. He told a story, and honestly, kudos to him for being able to tell that story as well as he did back in like 2001, 2005. Truly kudos to him. But I really hope that in the show, it is not necessarily more emphasized upon, but it is really taken seriously. I don't want some fucking gooner when it happens. I don't want some like gooner animating it to like where it looks appealing. I don't want somebody animating it to the point like where it doesn't have that same weight as it did in the comics. I need the voice acting to be actually traumatizing. And as messed up as that sounds, just to emphasize the point of what is happening to Mark, this is not a pleasurable experience. This is not something you should want, right? That's what I need for the show to happen. In terms of like how the fan perception should be in the show, I genuinely hope it's a different time than 2005. It's a different time than when this first happened in the comic books way back then. So hopefully, the response is different, and from show watchers to comic. Obviously, you're going to still have those like troglodytes who say, "Oh man, this should have been me. Why is Mark crying? He's complaining about nothing." Obviously that, but the overarching result should be that, oh, this is a fucked up thing that is happening. This should not be like celebrated. This should not be glorified. There shouldn't be TikTok edits of like Mark getting raped. But like the sad part is, I know what's going to happen because it happens today in real life situations, and it's a very sad thing to see, to like even make this video to try to like talk about it and be like, oh, like let's not do this, guys. But you still know in the bottom of your heart that it's going to happen. Um, um, yeah, I wanted to make this video because, like I said, I wanted to be ahead of this. I didn't want to like drop this video when it happened. I might do another video similar to this when we get closer to that scene in the show. But as of right now, like, please, this is just me asking, right? As a human being, can we not like joke about it to that extent? Can we not like dismiss what happened? Because it's not just me who has been through a situation like this. It's a planet full of 8 billion people that we're on. This has happened to multiple men. This has happened to multiple people. And I'm just saying, can we have like a little bit of like human fucking empathy? I know that's a lot. No, it's a lot to ask in 2025, but I just hope that we don't strive that far away from the point to the plot where we can't even like understand that this is a traumatizing thing happening to someone and it shouldn't be celebrated. Like I get it. A lot of people, they don't they don't pull women, right? They don't know how to talk to a woman. The only time they've ever touched a woman is when they came out of their mother, right? So any physical touch from a woman, they're going to sit there and celebrate, even if it's assault. And it's like, I get it. You get no bitches, but that's not an excuse to celebrate sexual assault. That's not an excuse to celebrate what is happening to this character, fictional or not. You need help. If you're celebrating the scene saying, man, it should have been me, like I said, we should knock you out, throw you on the next like fucking ship to Mars, and then blow up the planet with every nuke we have, just so there is no hope of you to ever come back. With that being said, I've been Brandon Madden. Um, this is a rant video. I make rant videos, but a different style of video, like a very more serious video. But there's other lighthearted videos and video essays on my channel. So if you like that type of stuff, go to my channel. Let me know what you like. And yeah, with that being said, I'll see you guys later. Toodles.